Hello, welcome back. We are in the Cash Clinic now with award-winning financial expert and founder of the financial education platform, Mr. MoneyJar, Timi Merriman-Johnson. Thank you for coming in, Timi. So there's loads to chew through here, isn't there? But just tell us a bit about your background in finance then, because you work a lot, don't you, in educating the world on their money and how to deal with it all.
Sure, yes. I've been running Mr. MoneyJar for the last 4 years. It's a financial education company, so I talk about personal finance, getting on the property ladder, investing, and I'm also an ambassador for national numeracy. So we help UK adults and children feel confident about numbers as well.
Yeah. Is this something you've always been interested in then?
Yeah, I think so. I moved house recently and I found a diary of mine where I'd written down the pocket money I'd gotten and how much I'd been spending on sweets and stuff, and that was dated 2000, so clearly the love for money's been there the whole time.
Yeah, amazing. So the big thing everyone's talking about in the economic world and the money world at the minute is inflation, because we have the latest statistic out on inflation. Do you want to tell us a bit about what we heard?
Absolutely, Steph. So inflation is a measure of how much stuff costs now versus 12 months ago. And new figures that came out this morning show that inflation is at 8.7%. So there's the inflation figures for May, and it's the same as what they were a month before. And this is disappointing for some because it was expected that they'd fall.
Yeah, and it's actually really, really bad news, isn't it? Because the Bank of England has been trying to bring inflation down, and what this is suggesting is what they've been doing to bring it down isn't working. Like, can you tell us a bit more about the numbers in terms of inflation? Like, what were the things that we saw, and what does it all mean?
Historically, inflation has been driven, and this will be of no surprise to anyone, by the cost of food and groceries, the price of our energy bills, and the cost of fuel. But in May specifically, it was also driven by things like the price of second-hand cars and air travel. But I've got two things to say about that, particularly on the bad news point. I went on the news this morning and there were so many headlines and tweets and analyses, and I'm a big fan of the mantra of when in doubt, zoom out. So even though inflation is higher than we'd like it to be, it's actually the lowest it's been in 2023, and it's down from its peak in October 2022 of 11%. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we just need to be aware of the relationship between inflation and interest rates.
Yeah, because that's the bit where it's going to worry people, because the way, as I've said this a million times on the show, I think now, but I think it's always worth reiterating, is the way that the Bank of England tries to bring down inflation is by putting up our interest rates, so making it more expensive for us to borrow money, in the hope if we've got less money, because we're paying out more in our debt, then we'll spend less in the shops and prices will come down. Clearly, that still isn't working. And now but the worry is that when the Bank of England meet again, they're going to put up rates this week again.
That's spot on, Steph. So the Bank of England has one main job, and that's to keep inflation at 2%. And as we've just discussed, it's at 8.7. And the primary way that they do that is by raising interest rates for all the reasons that you just said, reduce people's disposable income and hopefully drive down demand and prices. The Bank of England meets 8 times a year to discuss where interest rates are going to go. They're due to meet tomorrow, and from what I've been seeing, they could raise interest rates from 4.5%, which is what they're currently at, to as high as 4.75 or even 5%. So I want to speak particularly to people that are in mortgages at the moment. If you're looking at the next 2 to 3 months and you're thinking, do you know what, I'm probably going to struggle to repay my mortgage, now is the time to speak to your lender, to your mortgage provider, because they have a responsibility to, and it is in their interest to, help you. They can suggest things like mortgage holidays, extending your mortgage term, which will bring down the monthly repayments, or temporarily putting you on an interest-only mortgage. If you're in a fix that's due to come to an end, so there's potentially millions of people all over the country, then now is the time to speak to a mortgage broker, a whole-of-market mortgage broker if possible. And you can do this 6 months before your fix is due to end. They can help you get the best possible rate for your next fix. And when I've used one in the past, I haven't had to pay because they get a commission from the lender.
Yes, it's scary, isn't it? Like, just all these people who are coming off fixed rates, who've been used to paying 1.5% or whatever on their mortgage, and suddenly it's going to ramp up to 5%. It's really scary for lots of people. I'm sure we'll talk about it a lot more as those rates come out as well. Should we move on and chat about what's going on with this news? So this news really shocked me this morning. So This is companies who are being named and shamed by HMRC for not paying the minimum wage. So they've been shamed by the government essentially because they haven't been paying the minimum wage to all their staff. What's been going on?
Yeah, so the story is that around 200 firms face penalties of nearly £7 million for failure to pay the minimum wage to their staff, with some breaches dating as far back as 10 years ago. And the biggest offenders are actually like retailers that I quite like. So it's the like of Argos, Marks and Spencer's, and WH Smith. And through things like uniforms and not reimbursing their colleagues and so on.
Yeah, because the way it's interesting how this story comes out. It's not a case of those brands you've named, your M&S and everything. It's not that they haven't paid any of their staff minimum wage. It's that some of them, and in the hundreds and thousands of some in the hundreds, some in the thousands, have been not given allowances they should have been, and because they haven't been given those allowances, it's meant their pay essentially has been less than the minimum wage.
Yeah.
Do you think now they've named and shamed them? Do you think this is going to make a difference?
I mean, I'd like to see the best in people. I would like to think that this was due to misinterpretations and just administrative errors. Firms have an interest to pay their staff properly. It's against the law to pay below a minimum wage, and if they spot an error, they do have to reimburse their colleagues straight away. And if you're an employee and you think that you are earning less than minimum wage, then you can resolve this directly with your employer. A lot of these things are resolved through informal conversations between employer and employee. Or you can get in touch with ACAS, the advisory service. Their website is acas.org.uk.
Yeah, and they're an arbitration firm, aren't they? So they help to work between you and the employer to sort things out. There's a story as well about student loans at the minute.
Yes.
Go on then, tell us what's going on.
Right, so I remember when I left university, I was on a pre-2012 Plan 1 loan, showing my age slightly.
Yeah.
And then we got the Plan 2 loans for the post-2012. So students starting in September 2023 will be on Plan 5 loans. And these are going to be more expensive in terms of repayments, because one of the big changes that's been brought in with Plan 5 loans is the reduction of the payment threshold at which you start paying back. So you start paying back your student loan the April after you leave university.
Yeah.
And much like a direct tax, like income tax, for example, you pay a percentage back. So that's 9% over the threshold. Under the old system, the threshold was £27,295. So once you earned over that, you'd pay 9% of the difference. But that threshold has been lowered to £25,000. So you start paying back sooner. Not only that, but the amount of time that you pay back for has been increased from 30 years under the old system to 40 years under the new system. And just to give you an illustration, for an earner on 30K, they would pay back about £243 a year under the previous system, but under the new system, they can expect to pay back around £450 a year.
Oh, wow. So it's a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's tricky. So, yeah, I guess there's not what they can do about it, though, really, is there?
Well, I think it raises a couple of important issues. I think the main one is just, you go to university to hopefully not just increase your earnings potential, but meet new people and have a new experience. So just think about whether university in its totality is right for you. There are other ways to progress into the work.
Yeah, we talk a lot about apprenticeships and things like that,
Exactly.
where you earn and learn. Brilliant. Timi, thank you very much. Lovely to have you here and join the gang of finance whizzes that we've got on the